John chapter 13, Amplified. Now before the Passover feast began, Jesus was fully aware that the time had come for him to leave this world and return to the Father. And as he had loved those who were his own in the world, he loved them to the last and to the highest degree. So it was during supper, Satan having already put the thought of betraying Jesus in the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, that Jesus, knowing fully aware that the Father had put everything into his hands, and that he had come from God and was now returning to God, got up from supper, took off his garments, and taking a servant's towel, he fastened it around his waist. Then he poured water into the wash basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the servant's towel, with which he was girded. When he came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, Lord, are my feet to be washed by you? Is it for you to wash my feet? And Jesus said to him, You do not understand now what I am doing, but you will understand later on. Peter said to him, You shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, Unless I wash you, you have no part in me. You have no share in companionship with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, wash not only my feet, but my hands and my head too. Jesus said to him, Anyone who has bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is clean all over. And you, my disciples, are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who was going to betray him. That was the reason he said, Not all of you are clean. So, when he had finished washing their feet, and had put on his garments, and had sat down again, he said to them, Do you understand what I have done to you? You call me the teacher, master, and the Lord, and you are right in doing so, for that is what I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, master, have washed your feet, you ought. It is your duty. You are under obligation. You owe it to wash one another's feet. For I have given you this as an example, so that you should do in your turn what I have done to you. I assure you, most solemnly, I tell you, a servant is not greater than his master, and no one who is sent is superior to the one who sent him. If you know these things, blessed and happy, and to be envied are you, if you practice them, if you act accordingly and really do them. I am not speaking of, and I do not mean, all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but it is that the scripture may be fulfilled. He who eats my bread with me has raised up his heel against me. I tell you this now before it occurs, so that when it does take place, you may be persuaded and believe that I am he who I say I am, the Christ, the Anointed One, the Messiah. I assure you, most solemnly I tell you, he who receives and welcomes and takes into his heart any messenger of mine receives me in just that way. And he who receives and welcomes and takes me into his heart receives him who sent me in that same way. After Jesus had said these things, he was troubled, disturbed, agitated in spirit, and said, I assure you, most solemnly I tell you, one of you will deliver me up. One of you will be false to me and betray me. The disciples kept looking at one another, puzzled as to whom he could mean. One of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, whom he esteemed and delighted in, was reclining next to him on Jesus' bosom. So Simon Peter motioned to him to ask of whom he was speaking. Then, leaning back against Jesus' breast, he asked him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, It is the one to whom I am going to give this bit of food after I have dipped it. So when he had dipped the morsel of bread into the dish, he gave it to Judas, Simon Iscariot's son. Then after he had taken the bit of food, Satan entered into and took possession of Judas. Jesus said to him, What you are going to do more swiftly than you seem to intend, and make quick work of it. But nobody reclining at the table knew why he spoke to him, or what he meant by telling him this. Some thought that since Judas had the money box, the purse, Jesus was telling him, buy what we need for the festival, or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the bit of bread, he went out immediately, and it was night. When he had left, Jesus said, now is the Son of Man glorified. Now he has achieved his glory, his honor, his exaltation. And God had been glorified through and in him. And if God is glorified through and in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and he will glorify him at once and not delay. Dear little children, I am to be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, you are not able to come where I am going. I give you a new commandment, that you should love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you too should love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another, if you keep on showing love among yourselves. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus answered, you are not able to follow me now where I am going, but you shall follow me afterwards. Peter said to him, Lord, why cannot I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Jesus answered, will you really lay down your life for me? I assure you, most solemnly I tell you, before a rooster crows, you will deny me, completely disown me 3 times.